You are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
The station for you is
OTR.
Music news, more importantly, those glow-in-the-dark tube radios from 1958 to 1978. Maybe you own one. Maybe you have one. You're getting ready to check it in. Maybe you've never heard one before. This is the place to be. 27085 in Central California, the Old Tube Radio Network. On for well over 30 years at 27085 Channel 11, talking with, checking in, and really glad that those tube radio operators are still around to give us that sound from years and years ago. OTR listening for tube radio check-ins. And hello, Jerry, SWL25. Looks like the Radio Shack is still glowing. There is still power out to the barn, and you've got a radio to check in. We're listening.
Okay, Dennis, I thought I heard another station just before me, but anyway, I'll make this really quick. 25 checking in on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. And two-piece radio, and the red on the air light is glowing. And, of course, we're talking on the non-powered banana mic. Boy, that's about it. Like I said, I was going to try to make it quick. So, just to make room for other operators if I want to check in. So, anyway, Dennis, good job on that, and sorry to hear about the original Bozo passing this last week. So, anyway, back to you. This is SWL 25.
Sounding good on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. You put a shot up at oldtuberadio.net and on the video. One isn't familiar with this two-piece radio transmitter, separate transmitter and receiver paired together with a connecting cable. One of the top of the line, and I will say up there being most expensive radios of the day. The day for the Mark III being, when was it? About 1972, I think that's when those first appeared, and they had a good run for about 3 or 4 years until things went to 40 channels, and the Mark IV came out. But still a lot of those radios around, and there are still quite a few places where you can get parts and pieces and have them peaked and tweaked. So don't go away. I want to hear another transmission from your Browning. Sounding good, over.
Okay, Dennis. Yes, this is right. I think the last set before the Mark IV, but I think the Mark IV wouldn't actually qualify as a tuber or a tube radio because part of it was transistorized. I can't remember if it was the receiver, the transmit. But this is all tubes on the receive and all tubes on the transmit. And anyway, thanks for checking it in, Dennis.
Thanks for bringing it by. It was more of a hybrid radio. We usually didn't check in hybrids, but then again, these are rules from 30 years ago. So these days, we are lucky and appreciative of any radio that comes by that might have a tube or two in it. So it's very possible that it could make the list. And Okan, the Bozo, you know, the Bozo that passed away, the Bozo, he's saying, the Bozo. The guy that played Bozo was from one of the Boston, Philadelphia, New York places, and there were each big market sort of had their own Bozo franchise for television. Larry Harmon, who actually owned the rights to Bozo after Capitol Records, after he bought it from Capitol Records in the 1950s, was the guy that I grew up watching in Los Angeles, and he is gone. So there aren't many original bozos, except for, of course, Bozo Control, the honking proboscis around. But that's something, as they say, for a later date. Sounding good, getting us started off with Radio 1, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Thanks for bringing it by.
Hey, my pleasure, Dennis, but it's wonderful to hear Bozo in the background honking the horn, and hopefully there's not too much peanut butter and jam stuck on the microphone keys. Anyway, thanks for checking me in.
All right, and thanks for being out there. I want to wave a hand to our video listeners and watchers. Thanks to Crazy Bob DJ, who, like me, sometimes when he's not behind his two-way microphone, will be behind the one-way microphone at an FM station like I sometimes do, and he is streaming live on Vintage and Antique CB radios on Facebook. Hello to all of you out there that may be watching. And I wish we had great conditions. Watching and reading the Facebook pages, there are a lot of great operators and tube radios out there, and we can only grab the ones we can hear by ground wave here in Central California. So maybe when we get into cycle 25, we will have some conditions and do some great stuff. Also want to say hello to the mighty JW, Juliet Whiskey, out there in the Hawkeye State. Of course, Butterbean from Northeast Georgia waving a hand. And our tube radio operators who are yet to come by here on the old tube radio network, listening for radio number 2. Paul, I think I hear you. Try it again. The signal is down. OTR listening. It almost sounded like you were off frequency. I spun the dial here just a bit, and I don't think that is the case. So not making a good connection or something. I can tell you are out there. So take a look at it. If it's not up to snuff, maybe we'll save that one for next week, or it will come back. I know you might have a few more radios in the arsenal tonight, so we will be listening for those. But it is transmitting, but there is some issue with the power output and the modulation. We will see what we can do. The old tube radio network, real radios going in the dark. The Jingle Singers in Studio B. I'm trying to look through the audio rack here to see if they're ready, and they are. Well, tell us what it is that we do here on Saturday nights.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite slot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
45.
Hi, Paul. I hear you. I had to go switch on the light over on the workbench there. Try it again. 45, hello, radio. It's coming through a little bit louder now, but still getting some issues on the carrier. It's almost as though it's coming through like a control carrier, so you have to have pretty much a lot of audio to keep the carrier up. Let's see if we can grab this as radio 2. It's going to be a little bit rough, but I'd like to try it. Over. Not sure if you stopped transmitting. It's almost as though you need to reseat some tubes in the sockets there. If you can try it again, give me the model, make and model of the radio on which you're transmitting. Over.
Tennessee kind of fades out.
All right, so it's not. I thought maybe I had a receiver problem. It just seems like the signal isn't quite there all the time with the audio. All right, well, I've got Radio 2 reserved for whatever he might have from the shack there tonight, so we will see. OTR standing by. Yeah, that's what I'm figuring. He's working on it tonight, and we'll see what happens. It was a slow day around town today. A lot of people, I think, doing damage control after all the rains that we had. And we had a great check-in week last week, over 20 radios. So we'll see if people are holding back tonight. We're looking for radio. Well, Paul's got Radio 2, whatever it might be. So we're looking for Radio 3.
45.
Hey, I hear you good now. Hello, radio.
Okay. Well, my little young town and country gave up. It was a Utica. I don't know what happened to it. It checked out real good earlier this afternoon, but you know how these things get. Anyway, this is Big Brother. This Utica Town and Country 2.
Okay, well, we're still in the town and country, the Utica line. I know we might have a couple of fans of the radio, so let me see if I grab a shot of a Town and Country 2, which we have. I don't think that's from your collection, but you can tell us a little bit about what you got there. I did hear the other one, and you might let me know which model that was. But your Town and Country 2 sounding good. Back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what happened to the bigger Town and Country. I don't know. It just decided to not work for some reason. Anyway, I want to check this one in. Now, this is a lot bigger unit. It has a lot more things in it. That earlier one has nothing on it. Basic. I think it was one of the first ones that they made. Now, this one has everything on it. It has a channel selector with a nice light on it. The other one didn't have that. It's got a nice meter on it. Same amount of crystals. It only has 6 crystals in the thing. But it's a larger unit with a bigger speaker, I'm sure. And it's got a tuned crystal with a vehicle on the thing. They come quite a ways from that first one. Anyway, back to you.
All right, doing a good job with the audio, and I will ask you about the microphone. I know a lot of times if anybody's listening or watching and has this radio or thinking about it, a lot of people want to know, well, what's a good microphone or what's the best microphone? So we'll see what you're doing. I'll just let people know that Paul is up in the foothills above Fresno here, probably 35 or 40 miles away. So he's not doing too bad of a job at all on the Utica Town and Country. I'm showing manufacture for this around 1961 to 1963, sold for $200. So this was not an inexpensive radio for the time. And it would run 112-volt AC, 12-volt DC, and 6-volt DC, as a lot of the early radios did back in the day. Another transmission, and let me know what microphone you're running.
Okay, well, this thing has got the crystals in the back like the other one has, so they're easy to get to and change. It's one thing they had. That was a good stuff on the thing. Anyway, the microphone I'm learning is the Turner Plus 3. I was learning Turner Plus 2 on the other one, and it didn't like it, and it doesn't like this radio, so there's something wrong with that one. Anyway, this thing was manufactured in Chicago, Illinois around 1963, it said. And it's got an outside transmit crystal socket where you can run a crystal. And there's a handful of crystals, I guess, and plug them in if you want to on the transmit. Nice radio. Anyway, back to you, Dennis.
Doing a good job for the distance we have here. See the tunable receive. The radio we're showing doesn't show a microphone plugged in, and it looks like there is a jack in the front. So I'm just confirming that the microphone plugs into the front.
Yes, it does. It's right on the bottom, from the squelch to the left of the squelch.
Okay, and yes, I see it there, and it looks like it's the quarter-inch phone jack style. Doing a good job with the +3 Utica Town and Country 2 from the early 1960s. This one is working fine. Maybe before we sign out tonight, you can see if the other one is going to come back to life. But thanks for getting us Radio 2. Back to you for transmission. Thanks for bringing it by.
Okay. I'm going to check in a little newer one. Maybe they'll cooperate with me. Yeah, I hope blame it on the rain, but it wasn't the rain's fault the radio quit. It's just the very old radios. They go and then they quit. Okay, thanks for checking it in, Dennis. Hello, Paul. Hi, Jerry.
And thanks for bringing it by the Old Tube Radio Network. We are looking for radio number 3.
I was leaving a lot of space there, but 25.
Not a problem. Like I said, after all those radios we had last weekend, it might be kind of a slow evening here as people dry out from the rainstorm. You will have radio number 3, Jerry. Go ahead.
All right. Again, a little bit different match. Actually, I didn't tune the antenna. I'm just going right through the 10-meter AR-10. So it looks like it's okay. Match isn't great. But anyway, real quickly, checking in the Holocrafters, Citizens Band little phone with the external meter and the DFO and the on-the-air light, and talking on a non-powered T104. Dennis, back to you.
You always fool me with the Holocrafters because it has such good audio. You are not using the stock microphone with that one, I believe, and I want to confirm it is a little phone. Is that the model 3A over?
That is a CB3A, I think, and if memory calls me back, otherwise I'd have to look at the back of the radio, which would not be a fun thing to do. But yeah, I believe it's a CB3A, Dennis.
All right, that's the one we're going to get a picture of here, courtesy of Cliff, SWO135, who's got a great shot of one from his collection. He's got it on channel A out of the possible 8 alphabet letters there on the dial. I'm not sure which one you are selected for your channel 11, but it is sounding good. Give us another transmission.
Okay, well, this one is actually channel C is 27085, and again it has the meter on the front on the right-hand side, and then it has the VFO dial on the left-hand side of the channel selector, if you will. And of course, the lower left-hand side, the orange on-the-air light is working, and according to the meters, it may not be the loudest radio I have, but well, by golly, if we can get her checked in, that's all that counts. Dennis, back to you.
It's nice audio with the amplified microphone. You have to be careful. I was going to say on the Holocrafters, a lot of the early ones were classic. If you drove them too hard, get the classic flat topping in the audio, which I do not hear at all with yours. So don't touch a thing on how you have the gain set up. And you mentioned a few things I want to point out here if anyone's watching the video. The radio came, I think, stock with 2 blank panels on either side of the channel selector. On the picture we're showing here, one of them is blank, the other one has the S meter installed. Those were options. Jerry is fortunate enough to have both options with his radio, the S meter, and then he's got the other blank panel filled in with a receive VFO, which you could buy and take that panel out and install it, screw it into the chassis there, and then plug it in somewhere inside the radio. You had a full-fledged CB3A little phone from Hallicrafters, 1963. 1963 is the year tonight so far, it looks like, for the radios, checking on the last couple of radios. $160, so a little bit less than the Utica Town and Country, giving you, well, almost the same things, considering you had to buy the S meter and the VFO separate. That would probably put you up to around $200. This would also go mobile as well. Give us another transmission before you go. It's sounding good.
Hey, thanks, Dennis. And by the way, this is a non-powered D104, not a powered amplified D104. And what's cool about this radio, it has little quick disconnects, matches, if you will, that you can just pop off the top if you need to do a little maintenance or replace a tube. The top pops off real quick, and the quick matches on the side make it real easy to do that if you have to. So anyway, back to you, Dennis. Thanks for checking this one out, and thanks for what you do.
Thanks for bringing it by here on the Old Tube Radio Network. Only 7 tubes total on that radio, doing a good job. There is a schematic available at oldtuberadio.com. Anybody's interested in that? And I have corrected my notes on the microphonium. Maybe that's why I'm not hearing the flat topping. I was going to say you have to be very gentle with amplification into the front end of those little phones, and you are with the non-amplified D104. Good choice for that radio if you're going to not run the stock microphone, as you can hear from the audio. And Jerry he's also over the hill and through the woods, not quite to Grandma's house, but he's north of me here. And there's sort of a hill in the way between us. And my antenna is low, but still putting in a good signal. Thanks for bringing it by. Always good to hear you on the Old Tube Radio Network.
45.
And speaking of the Old Tube Radio Network and Tube Radios, hello, Paul.
Yeah, this one here looks a little bit better on the meters. This is my Aircastle.
The Aircastle. Okay, but you must have had another radio on when you first keyed down. And I was thinking he's on the Browning, and it had that kind of audio. But the Aircastle sounding good. And yes, indeed, I'm going to say for signal strength, this is probably the strongest radio from your QTH tonight. We will talk a little bit more about the Aircastle on your next transmission. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, it's a 23-02. That's after the Aircastle number. Probably find it in. You already found it. Good. I think you did. Anyway, let me look. Now you got the wrong radio. Okay, you'll find it, I'm sure. You got it. Right there it is. Yeah, that's it. They're neat radios, and they were sold by Spiegel. So the guy that I bought the radio from sent me a copy of the operating instructions that Spiegel had in their catalog. They were selling them in Spiegel, and it was in 1970 when this all come down. So I was kind of interested. They got operating instructors, maintenance, and everything on this thing. Spiegel was a pretty neat catalog. I don't remember them that well, but I remember them a little bit. I guess they had radios and everything. Back to you.
They had a lot of stuff. I remember the old Steve Allen show, and he used to do something, and they had a co-op with Spiegel. And he used to say, Spiegel, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. That is ingrained in my memory forever. 60609, I believe, was the zip code for Spiegel Catalog, Chicago. There's if you're watching the video, oldtuberadio.net, we got a picture. There is the radio. And that is actual the radio on which we're listening to. That is from Paul's collection. Very nice looking radio, Aircastle. I believe that is similar to the Fannin Courier of that day. I'll see if I've got any information. It is an 11 tube radio, 6BQ5 for the final amplifier. But that chassis had some great audio on some of the other manufacturers that it shared with, but Aircastle was one of them. And the catalogs back in the day, Sears, Spiegel, Bernstein, Appleby, and everybody knows, J.C. Penney sold radios, Montgomery Ford sold radios, farmed out to some of the manufacturers so that they could get in on the CB craze. Spiegel was one of them. Got nice audio. Give us another transmission.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It was made by Courier. Yeah, it's a neat radio. I'll tell you what. It's got all the goodies on it. It's got a nice big meter on it. It's got a red flashing light right now on the modulation. And it's got band spreader, which I like real well. I can tune everything in a lot better. And it's also got the extra, what they call that thing is range expander on the thing, which I'm not running the range expander on the thing because I'm running an amplified microphone. But I'll kick it on just so you can hear. It's down now. It's on. And right now it's on. So I kind of like this on the meter earlier. Does it sound good that way, Dennis?
Your meter is telling you true. The Microphonium Plus, the range expand is perfect. I see some forward movement on the S meter. When you kick it out, I can still hear you. The percentage of modulation goes down, of course, and your resting carrier just kind of stays there as you talk. So you've got it set up correctly. Over.
Yeah, okay, good. I think I'm a little low on freak. I don't know. You check me out sometime. Maybe I'm not. It's real nice. A two-tone brown radio. The color brown is really nice looking. It's a different type of brown. I don't know how to explain it. Thing's got a chrome polished aluminum front on the thing, where the speaker grill is. And the case is really well ventilated. It's a brown case. And it's ventilated all the way around the side and on the top. Very impressive. Nice radio. Kerry put out a good radio. Back to you.
A very nice-looking radio. And like I said, the picture we showed was the one that you actually have. Great audio. Did a quick frequency check as you were transmitting there, and you are within the FCC specs. What did they give us? 700 cycles back in the day from center frequency, crystal controlled, of course. And I dialed you in at 27084.65, so less than 400 cycles. A little low, but certainly on my wideband receiver, couldn't tell a bit of difference. So radio number 4 on the Old 2 Radio Network tonight. Paul bringing us the Aircastle 2302 of the Fannin, I guess, Courier chassis fame. Sounding good. Back to you for another transmission. That one's working 100%.
Comment. I keyed up on somebody there. Go ahead. Who I was keying up on?
Yeah, there was a comment. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah. Paul, that's a loud radio, man. That sucker's blowing smoke. Anyway, just want to let you know that thing was a lot better than that first radio you tried to check in. That thing is loud. Anyway, back to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. I'm running a Turner JM plus 2 hand mic on the thing, and it is amplified. So it's doing a pretty good job. As far as the meter looks real good. That first radio put in, that meter was going berserk, I'll tell you. Something was going wrong. Anyway, that's about it. It's a real nice radio, and as far as the frequency on that, I'm happy. The way the crystals are trying to get those things and the cost up anymore and all that, you're lucky if you get that close and stay that close. Thanks, Dennis, very much for checking it in.
And thanks for bringing it by. Radio 4, the Aircastle, doing a good job, and I agree with Jerry there. Thing is sounding quite loud tonight. Waving a hand to one of our viewers, listeners, Tim Tron, up in the Pacific Northwest. wishing he had a glow-in-the-dark radio, although I have seen through the video Tim's shack, and he has just about everything else. If he doesn't have a tube radio in there, he's dialed into just about every frequency that you can imagine, since he does have his amateur radio license as well. Also, Butterbean is looking for, and I'm going to have to look at the screen since the type is very small. Crystal for the Johnson Messenger 1, I guess that's 1/2, the Viking Messenger. Harvey isn't out there tonight, and because he might know if they use a multiple, if they're using for 27085 for channel 11, how they work that. They might be looking for crystals for 14, which shouldn't be too hard to find, and then one for channel 40. Typically, when channel 40 was out and about, they were not crystal controlling things anymore, so the 40 might be a little bit harder to find. 14 shouldn't be that hard, and I'm not sure exactly what size it is. It isn't the smaller, it might be the 245 basis for that, so I don't think you'll have too much trouble finding 14. 14 was a popular channel. 11 was a popular channel. 14, that's why we're on channel 11. A lot of the radios came with channel 11. Typically, if you run across an old tube radio, it will have channel 11 in, because that was a call frequency. For the early days, where are we at? We're looking for radio number 5. The Jingle Singers are getting over to the ribbon microphones, and you are still listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, the friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
The station for you is
OTR.
Yeah, and I agree on the Johnson. It was the 1 crystal per channel. I actually have a messenger here somewhere, but I don't have the top-up available to see if they actually use how they're multiplying the frequency on that. You are listening, if you've just stopped by here locally, Central California 27085, or maybe you're tuning in at oldtuberadio.net or watching us on the video. This is the Old Tube Radio Network, a gathering of semi-radio aficionados, I guess I should say, Old Tube Radio collectors that stop by channel 11 here on Saturday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. We have been doing this for well over 33 years, just listening in and chatting the way you might have done back in the 1960s and the 1970s with our tube radio, sort of a get-on-the-air night, break away from whatever Saturday evening things are going on in the house, and waving a hand and saying, hey, I can still drive the radio around the block once a week. We are looking for radio number 5.
Break OTR.
Now there's a definitive key up. Break OTR, go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, Dennis. 56, heard you mention Burstein Appleby, so, yeah, whatever. So I got one.
Got one, and it is sounding good. Why did we mention that? Oh, because we just had the Air Castle, which was a clone of a Fan and Courier, I believe, but sold through the Spiegel catalog. And Burstein Appleby, although I don't recall them here on the West Coast, but another manufacturer, or another rather, what do we call it, distributor or a store that sold CB radios manufactured by, I'm going to assume, someone other than Burstein Appleby over.
Yes, if I recall the article I read about it, there were a couple guys selling, they were from the Midwest. They were selling out of the trunk of their car, and then eventually got a brick and mortar store and sold, amongst other things, stereo equipment, such and so. Almost a predecessor to Radio Shack.
Definitely, indeed. And I've got, I want to make sure, your model number on that is, they made a couple of them, or they sold, they didn't make any of them. They sold a couple of them. I want to confirm that yours is the BA-23.
Yes, I should have mentioned that, but I didn't.
Not a problem. I just want to make sure if I pull up a video, which I'm going to do here now, that we show something that resembles that, and indeed we do. Cool looking radio, like the round speaker. There is what I believe the BA Burstein Appleby logo in the center, and I think I know from the looks of this what the original chassis should be out of this radio, and that gives me an idea of why the audio is so nice and clear, because I do believe this is probably a clone of the Olson, I want to say Spotter series, like a Spotter 2 or 3, because it's got the dual knobs for transmit and receive, and some other things as well. You got Radio 5, back to you for transmission.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Let's see what this has. It's got a VFO receive. It's got an external crystal socket. I can function the meter to either give me signal strength or modulation, and it's got a spotting switch, squelch, volume. That's about it.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if you flipped a switch, but your audio changed, and you're saying, what does he mean by that? The frequency response changed, but I'm thinking, as you were talking about the switch, and the switch you flipped shouldn't have had anything to do with the audio, so it might have just been one of those things. You sound good on 11. Maybe I will check your crystal transmit frequency. I'm assuming you have dialed into wherever I'm at with the spot switch. Give us another transmission. I want to hear that audio again.
Okay, well, let's see if that switch made any difference. Right now, it's not, the meter isn't wiggling because it's indicating signal strength, and because I'm talking, there is no incoming signal. Now, when I press it, switch it to the modulation mode, of course, it's now wiggling as I...
All right, and I'm fiddling around with the frequency check here. Got you 2784.4 for about 600 cycles low. It changes, it's weird, it changes the tone, the frequency response just a little bit when you flip the switch there, and that is odd, because obviously, in theory, I wouldn't think that would make a difference in the audio circuit. It doesn't seem to bring down the gain at all, just a little bit in, maybe that's my ears, but nothing to worry about. I was looking for some information. I don't have a lot of information on the BA-23, if it would be base or mobile. But again, I think it is a clone of the Olson Spotter series, and boy, it sure has some just really clean and clear audio over.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I was listening, and I heard the spiel about the Spiegel 60609, and Burstein Appleby was mentioned, so I had to dig it out and put it on the air.
Okay, Burstein Appleby from, I guess, originally out of Kansas City, Missouri. Says founded in 1927. Like you said, it's two guys out of the back of the truck, right? And closed, I don't know what closed means, but closed in 1980. So all you stations out there in Missouri, this is the one for you, the BA-23. I was seeing if there was any other information. Oh, there's a great logo. I don't think I can pop that up, but we'll do that next time. Glad to get Radio 5. Give us another transmission before you go. Some of the rare radios coming in tonight on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Well, thank you, Dennis. And just, I've mentioned this before, but why not do it again? In the movie, Truman Capote's movie In Cold Blood takes place in the Midwest, and there's a scene, a very short glimpse of a billboard advertising Bursting Appleby, just a trivial bit of trivia.
We always like trivia on the Old Tube Radio Network because it seems like it works well with the tube radios. All right, there is oldtuberadio.net, and I'll get a shot up on the video here, which would be their Bursting Appleby's catalog. Radio, TV, electronics. This is from 1969. And my guess is that radio, or something like it, could certainly be in there. For fast personal service, send your money orders to 3199 Mercier Street, Kansas City, Missouri. We get to do another zip code here, 64111. Thanks, Phil. A reminder, you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network. 27085 is where we're transmitting out of Central California. Beaconing everywhere else at oldtuberadio.net, and hello to those who are listening in, watching in on the Google YouTube channel. And we are looking for radio number 6.
Frank, Beacon channel.
This is your Beacon channel, and I'm grabbing the shortwave listener list. Over.
Roger. How you doing, Dennis? 708 check-in, please. Hey, I heard a rumor.
All right, getting 70 checked in on the big board, and as we used to say, this is the rumor frequency. Go ahead.
I hear there might be some changes coming in your setup down there at some time in the future here.
Yes, indeed. I don't know how near or how far of a future we're talking about, but the changes have sort of been set in motion, or at least the items of interest are available. So it's going to require probably a reconfiguring of things, which I need to do anyway. And it would be nice to have a better, larger, higher antenna system to go with all that. So as we used to say a long time ago, there are great expectations. Over.
Very cool. Well, let me know if it gets closer. I'll keep in contact with the other guy and see if there's anything I can do to help you out when I get close to that kind of put it together stage. That's always fun stuff, but yeah, sometimes it just takes quite a while for it to materialize. But cool. That'll be cool to hear you blasting out a bit more than usual on some of the other bands.
Yeah, it's a really new one to me. So I've actually been, in Radio 101 courses, looking up the transmitter and receiver and modifications, of which there are quite a few, and it does some kind of interesting, odd things, thinking, well, is that going to be any good? I don't know. But just the item itself is sort of, I guess, even if it doesn't do anything, just sort of having it around is a nice thing, but hopefully we're going to make it do something.
All right. Well, I don't know all the details, but I just heard something that sounds good. All right, man. Thank you very much, and we'll be here listening. Have a great evening.
All right. It almost sounds like you know more than I do on this. We will find out. But again, that's sort of on the 2018 punch list here. We'll see, because it seems to be getting more and more things going on. As you know, sometimes the radio projects get pushed to the back for things, I wouldn't say more important, but maybe more urgent. I got you checked in. Thanks, Mark. The Old Tube Radio Network is where you're listening. The Jingle Singers are going to tell us a little bit more about it.
You're listening in the latest style at
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
Looking for Radio 7. Radio 6.
45.
All right, I'm just checking my list here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Verstein Appleby was our last radio. And hello, Paul. Over.
Yeah, Derek. I had to dig this one off the shelf, so I don't have any idea what it sounds like. It looks like the meter's working right, so I guess I don't know about the modulation. Anyways, my Gemtronics GTX 5000.
Yeah, let's go from the early 60s to pretty much the final bevy of tube radio chassis from, I want to say these are the Panasonic clones that came out and all sounded great. And these were 40-channel radios, so they were 1976, 1977. The Gemtronics GTX 5000. It sounds really good. You just took it off the shelf. You don't have to do anything else except key up, because it's sounding good. Over.
I'm glad. I usually like to check them, at least dust them off, but it didn't do much good on that unit because I was ready to quit anyway, so. And then I went to the ones that should operate now. They're definitely a hybrid. It's got the digital readout on the thing, on the channel that's right there in the center, and it's got a fantastic meter. It's got all different color meters. Really pretty. It's red and yellow and orange and green. The meter is, or a power meter. Very classy looking radio. Definitely made in Japan. And they did a fine job with Panasonic. Probably told them what to do, but they did a fine job with it. Back to you.
Did a great job. Those radios pretty much took over for anything that was tubes. They actually show up in Sam's. They were way up in the Book 202. 40 channels, Panasonic, and if you've got a Robin T240D or a T-Berry Model T, the Shakespeare Colt, and there were a few others, you basically have that same Gemtronics GTX 5000 on the inside. They did on the, I'll call it the front elevation of the facade. Anyway, the front part of the radio were slightly different on some of them. I think some of them had CB and PA switches. Some of them had range expands, S-meter switches. But internally talking, they were all the same and always sounded good. Let's see. It says you could remove the limiter. We're not suggesting this, but the mod for that is remove the limiter by clipping D601. It says taking the limiter out really gives the mic audio more highs and more low range. And probably back at that time, FCC was already requiring the modulation limiters be built into the radios to keep things from overmodulating. As we know from the early 60s, that there wasn't a lot of internal clamping down on the audio circuits, but FCC trying to keep things in order. But there's always ways around that. You're sounding good. I don't think you need to clip anything unless it's already been done. It's Radio 6, the Gemtronics GTX 5000. Give us another transmission.
I'm running a TMD microphone thing, TMD power mic on the thing. I'm not used to aesthetics that much, but I'm a Turner man. As you know, I love the Turner microphone and thing, but I hope it sounds good. It's a nice looking mic. It's a handheld. Nice chrome front of the thing. Classy looking. One of the older ones. Runs really nice. But the radio is really nice looking too. As you can see the picture of the thing. It's brushed aluminum front, black, and with all the lights lit. Well, not that many, but the TX light is lit right now. It's very bright orange red, and it's just they're a classy radio. It's the kind of radio, like you say, they made a bunch like this. A little different configuration on the looks, but I think internally this microphone will work on the T-Berries and a few others too. You don't have to change microphone, which is kind of nice. Back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that with that microphone pin out and the mic jack, it'll, keep a note on that one when you get some of the newer or later model tube radios with the Panasonic chassis should probably plug right into it. Less than stellar picture. We don't have a nice SWL 135 makeover for this one, but it gets the idea out there across. This is a good-looking radio and a good-sounding radio as well. It's a number 6 on our list tonight, Gemtronics GTX 5000. More information if you've got a Sam's CB202 way up there in the book range. Doing a good job. Give us another transmission before you go. And thanks for bringing it by and giving us one of the last of the tube radios.
Yeah, hello. It's enjoyable. I'll tell you this. I love the radios. This thing here, I was saying that with it being a hybrid, they will go out before the tube radios on the older tube radios. But I don't know. I tell you what, they built these things like I tell you, they're really strong. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to bet money on it now. Anyway, thanks a million, Dennis, for checking it in.
All right, thanks for bringing it by on the old Tube Radio Network. And let me go over to the SWL list, because I do believe Arlen is waving a hand. SWL 113. Hello, Arlen. Good evening to you, and we will get you checked in here on the old Tube Radio Network, where we are looking for we're looking for radio number 7. And I hear a carrier, but I'm not getting any audio with it, so I'll be listening if that's someone trying to fire up a tube radio.
We'll try it one more time. 25.
Hello, radio. I hear that one. 25. Over.
Okay. Oh, should we turn this down? And wow. Okay. I guess I didn't have the microphone plugged in all the way. Anyway, 25 checking in on a sonar FS 3023. And boy, the meter doesn't look like it's working. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I'm talking on a stock sonar. That mic. We're talking right across it, and hopefully you can hear me, Dennis. Back to you.
I can hear you, no problem. Let me grab a shot of and I copied that you were on the FS 3023. That's the one I'll show. If I've got it wrong, we'll do an update. There is carrier and there is audio, and now we have some video, so we'll go back to you. I think it's working.
Wow. We have video, audio, and well, anyway. Sounds like it's working, as my ex-German boss would say. Anyway, not much to talk about. 23 channel. And, boy, I'm glad it got to working. I just, operator error. I guess I didn't have the mic plugged in all the way. So it was enough to throw a carrier but no audio. So, my fault, totally. So anyway, thanks for checking in that, Dennis. And anyway, back to you. This SWL 25.
Sounding good. I'm confirming that you said you are running a non-amplified or perhaps the stock microphonium with the sonar, over.
So that is correct. It's a stock handheld mic, sonar mic, big old fat mic. I'm talking right across. Maybe I need to talk into it. I don't know. Anyway, back to you, Dennis.
It's doing well. Sonars have good audio out of the box. Typically, you don't need to amplify them, but you can. They will get very loud. You don't need to do that. You are sounding really good. We got a shot of the sonar. Nice looking radio from the I believe that's the mid-1960s on the all those models. And was it Everett that used to say, for anybody that's familiar with the Yaesu FT101 series, this has sort of the same silver and black and gray and the silver knob inserts. So at first glance, you might think you're looking at an FT101, but you are looking at the Sonar FS3023. And what did one of our SWLs mentioned last time we checked one of these in? FS stands for Field Service. We always thought it might be Frank Sinatra or something, but I believe it's a field service. Take another transmission. I'll do a frequency check on you here.
Yeah, okay. Yaesu FT101B. It's right now. They look very, very similar, same colors and everything. So, anyway, kind of funny how that worked out. Anyways, the other thing, Sam, we'll be in touch, and thanks for doing what you do. Back to you.
Good deal. Thanks for bringing another radio by. You're Radio 7. From Sonar, it did the frequency check here at 27084.2, so you're about 750, 800 cycles low. Sounding good, though. I couldn't tell. Good audio. And glowing in the dark, the way we like it here on the Old Tube Radio Network. We are looking for radio number 8.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic
Old Tube Radio.
for you.
Making some adjustments to the RF gain control. Seems like we have a little more static tonight than normal. So maybe all the rain has washed some debris into the power line system around here. We are looking for radio number 8. And a reminder that we do archive the audio portion of the net in 2 sections, one for SWL check-ins and 2 for the radio check-ins. If you'd like to give yourself a radio check, listen to your audio, the audio of your tube radio, easy to do. Go to the oldtuberadio.net page. Top of the page, you will see the archived button. When you click on that, wait a minute or two for our OTR magnetophone tape recorder to load all those 3-inch reel-to-reel tapes. Sort of like an audio jukebox, I guess. And then look for the date and whether it was an SWL or tube radio check-in off the list, and you can load that into the media audio player of your choice and scroll around and listen to your check-in. As we hear it here, as it is heard here through the receiver, a direct output to an MP3. So we do that. I think we go back than when we first started streaming, which was 2012 or something like that. So we've got plenty from which to choose. Looking for radio number 8 on the Old Tube Radio Network. The Old Tube Radio Network. We're listening for radio number 8.
45.
Hello, Paul. Hearing you good here at the Old Tube Radio Network.
Well, I got this microphone. I had to put a battery in it. They're kind of a little short to put a battery in these handhelds. So I thought I'd hook it up to this T-Berry T23 channel.
Right. I think you have found the proper battery for the microphone. Things are sounding good on the T-Berry. And which model was that one over?
T-Berry T. Yeah, it's a 23 channel, but it says T-Berry T.
All right. We'll call it the Model T with the 23 channel version. So this is 1976 or pre-1976. And I think we are lucky enough to actually have a shot of the radio from your collection, probably the one that you're talking on there. We'll pull that up and go back to you for a transmission.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is an old tuber. Old tube. This is not a hybrid. It's a strong radio. I'm sure they're made in the same place in Japan. I got my deal here. I'm kind of forgetting everything. Yeah, manufactured in Japan by Panasonic again. So they're all more or less made, like you say, in the same area by Panasonic. Anyway, back to you.
Good audio, pretty radio. I like the black and the silver, and it has the multicolor S meter. Reminds me of my first 23-channel rig. It wasn't tube radio, it was Radio Shack. The original Navajo TRC 23 or 23A had that style of meter. So I'm thinking that I think it was also an import radio. That might have been the little square meter of choice. 23 channels, and there are, I want to say buttons, but I guess it is some lights that must come on. So when you're transmitting, do you get a modulation light going?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, modulation and RTX light is lighting right now. Very pretty. Yeah, it's just a nice looking radio all the way through it. They're well lit. I can see it, you don't have to kind of quick to see it, but everything's clear as a bell on the thing. Big meter on it. And I can say it's a real pretty meter. On the back, it's got plate and speed and tuning on the thing. Load and plate tuning on the back. You can go ahead and adjust it up back there, wherever you want to get it adjusted at. Yeah,
got a trap, meter adjustment, external speaker, PA jack, and everything on the back, which is doggone nice. They don't have holes in the front of it. And you push the button on the front to turn them in. Anyway, it's a very nice looking radio.
Nice looking and nice sounding. Paul brings up something interesting. If you haven't or don't own a tube radio, part of the thrill, I mean, we all like listening to the sound and getting into the aura of things, but it's like an old car. Being in the driver's seat is also pretty cool. So if you haven't tried a tube radio before, that's the thing you're probably going to enjoy is one, the cool look that these radios have and all the colors and things. And there's also, what we call it, olfactory, the smell of the burning, of the dust burning off the tubes and the light. As you can see from this picture, there's a little bit of a glow coming from the convection cooling vents through the top of the radio. And if you adjust your room lighting appropriately, you will have some nice little shadows dancing around your Radio Shack. So it's a cool thing all around as an operator. Radio number 8, the T-Berry Model T. Paul, we'll go back to you for another transmission. It's sounding great. Let me know again, because I didn't write it down, what microphone you're using, if you're amplified or not, but you've got plenty of audio and a great signal.
Yeah, I'll go to that first off. Yeah, I'm using the same mic that I was running on my Gemtronic. I didn't change settings on the mic, and it's power mic. It's an Aesthetic TMD 107. It's foam-faced Aesthetic mic. Very nice looking microphone. And it's one of the older mics. They take that 7.5 volt battery in the thing, and they're kind of a little shorter change. Because you use it, they put them in a plastic holder in the microphone, and they do wear a little bit. So you got to be real careful. A little tape once in a while helps out too. That's one thing I see wrong with Aesthetics. Boy, you got to take the mic completely apart to put that 7.5 volt in the thing. But they work well. Okay, thanks, Dennis. Back to you.
37.
Yeah, the 7.5. That's the one that used to go in the M+2U, the Turner. I have one of those. I used to run a +2 on my Regency, which wasn't the best combination. And they weren't easy to find. Those batteries weren't easy to find 30 years ago, so I don't know. Glad you found something, or maybe you've got some replacement that goes in there, but it's fine. No problem with the audio. Thanks for Radio 8, the old Tube Radio Network. Jingle Singer standing by, but first let's take another check-in. Go ahead, 37.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm watching a movie. I thought I'd get in here real quick. But anyway, this is FWL37. I want to check in my general radio telephone, the Super MC11A, 24-channel version of this thing here, and we are running this here with a handheld stock microphone.
Stock audio on the general radio telephone sounding good. Yeah, thanks for running in from the theater into the Radio Shack to give us a check-in. And this will be, what did I say? This will be Radio 9. I've got a great shot from the collection of SWL 135 of that general radio telephone. So back to you.
All right, Dennis, well, thank you. I'm going to get back to the movie. We're watching a Ragnarok, Thor. Hey, I'll be out, so you have a good one. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, thank you. Appreciate our tube radio operators that take time out of their Saturday evenings to jump into the Radio Shack and give us another check-in like this one. Thanks, Chris. The General Radio Telephone Super MC11A, I believe probably their last type-accepted radio. They came out with the Super MC12 after that, which I don't think got type-accepted. 9 tubes, 2 transistors, and of course the ECLL800 modulator that's helping Chris not need that amplified microphone to get the audio sounding so good. More information if you've got a Sam's Book 22 on page 45, the old Tube Radio Network listening.
How about 47?
I think 47 would be good. You know, I haven't even logged in the Super MC11A, which I will do as Radio 9, and we'll log in the item of interest you have as Radio 10. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that was a rather distinct ping. From the Radio Lounge, a Browning R27 S23
And I feel rather frisky. I want to test your listening skills and ask you if anything sounds different in my transmission.
Well, if I was to say off the top of my head what could or possibly might sound different, I would go with the audio department being a little bit louder and punchier than I'm used to hearing from that radio. Over.
Okay. Well, I think you hit the target dead center. I changed the microphone from what I'm normally used to using on this radio. You were just talking about a Turner. Oh my gosh, +2, Turner 2. What the heck is this thing?
Well, Turner, the +2, they made a desk microphonium which had a distinctive bluish look to it, and then they made the, was it M2+U, the mobile microphone that also had a nice blue look to it.
All right, I've had to ask everyone in the room what color the microphone is that I'm using. It's grayish blue, I think, is the general consensus. It's a Turner +2. I guess it says SSB +2. That's its official designation. It's kind of dark in here. I was madly trying to scramble and read the writing on the mic. But hey, it's a Turner +2. It's an amplified mic, and now with the time change, I did not check the 9-volt battery in this mic to see if it was up to par. But apparently it's working, sort of.
It's working well. It's got lots of audio. The +2s weren't that popular with the Brownings. You usually hear a D104. But it's not a bad combination. One, it gives you a little bit more audio than you would normally have with the banana-style mic. And I'll go with the gray blue standard +2. I think it's your desk mic, so you have the push-to-talk bar, and then it should have a little lever that you can pull forward and lock it down. It may not be as easy to orchestrate the ping that the banana mic could afford you, but it sounded good.
Okay, you as always, you're hitting the nail right on the head. No, this microphone, although it may sound nice, you got to be careful, and I was extremely cautious when picking it up. If you're right-handed, as I am, you got to be real careful that when you're grabbing the mic, you don't accidentally lock the lock-to-talk little lever that's on the right side of the microphone, or you're going to be transmitting forever, and you're going to be like trying to figure out why people aren't talking back to you. I guess this is a desk mic, although I'm not using it as one right now. But there it is. There's an interesting. There's a dial on in back of the head on the base of the microphone. I'm assuming it's some sort of a power, whatever knob. It's halfway up the minimum and maximum, which is like probably about 10 right now. I'm going to turn up just for the fun of it. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're at maximum, which looks like 20 right now, and we're going to turn it back down to about 10. I don't know. Did that have any change whatsoever?
Yes, it did. It changed. It, as a Browning will often do, it gave you more audio. Might be good for some DX situation. I don't think you need it for the local stuff going on, but it didn't flat top or do anything nasty. I think it was right at its limit, though. It's really hard to overmodulate a Browning. Although it's easier when you start amplifying the microphone into the front end of it. Typically, they're set up for non-amplified D104, so the audio is adjusted that way. So I think you've got it perfectly set. You have a little room to go up a little more if you would like, or someone is saying, "Moo, you need a little bit more audio." But I think that's the first thing I noticed, is that your audio is a bit more punchy with the amplified Turner microphonium. And you reminded me of something that that I remember from my early CB days back in the late 1960s and 70s was the key down problem. The somebody's microphone is stuck open, or somebody's, what he used to say, throwing a carrier, and we'll say it's not maliciously done. And I think, as you said, that was the culprit. Somebody would come up on the desk, and that little lock-to-talk bar would get hit or pushed, and you would be locked down and transmitting. A little bit harder to do with the D104, because typically you had a ring or the bar or something you had to slide around. But on that Turner, I'm trying to think. I had a Turner Plus 2 on my Regency. I'm hoping I never did some mishap like that. But I'm glad you noticed that, because it has been a problem throughout the ages.
Okay. Well, there it is. I am activating that lock-to-talk lever right now, so I actually can use this left-handed. I don't know if there's much more to say. I'm glad that this microphone is putting out relatively decent audio. I do like the original banana style mic better. It looks really, really awesome. Not that this one doesn't, but I think I like the looks of that thing, and ergonomically, I think that thing works out a little bit better. I don't know if there's, as always, there's not much more I can say about the R27 S23. It's a great radio to use, lots of knobs. You can kind of fiddle around listening to the show. You can fiddle around on the receive and find out, who's maybe a little bit above frequency or a little bit below. I'm not going to ask where I'm at, but it's at least fun on that on the receiver. And the transmitter, again, if you're kind of a sucker for either magic eye tubes or cool big glowing like on the air lamps, this is definitely something that ought to keep you entertained. It's been a long time since I've really paid attention to the size of the on the air lamps on the Browning radios. I used to be able to tell you a lot about that, and even how it was backlit. But if you want a large on-the-air lamp on your transmitter, this thing's got it. It's big. The writing is kind of cool in its font, and even though it's kind of situated, it slopes kind of downwards to the right. I don't know if you have a picture of it online right now, but anyway, it's fun radio to use, and everyone sounds great. And I think on that, I'll send it back to you. Thanks for letting me check it in.
All right, thanks for checking it in. We're getting us into double-digit radios tonight. A little bit of a slow evening, but that's okay. Got some good radios checking in tonight. The first Eagle in the series of many, the R27 S23 series, the R being the receiver, the S being the transmitter, separate transmitter and receiver. And as you saw in our earlier picture, the transmitter, the smaller of the two radios. And to get that lighted on-the-air indicator, there were two versions. The radio was produced from 1964 to 1966 for a price, I think, for the set of around $360. There was a Series 1 and Series 2. The Browning Eagle Series 2 base station consisted, of course, the R27 and the S23. And some of the differences from the Series 1 were larger meters, a neon modulation indicator, and the lighted on-the-air indicator. So I'm assuming, I'll make you take one more transmission here. Jingle singers are saying, oh, it's 10 o'clock already, that you have somewhere on that a neon modulation indicator as you talk. Yes. I'm always confused as to the neon versus regular incandescent bulbs. Yeah, there's some sort of a modulation lamp. It's right below the meter on the transmitter, the vertically orientated meter on there. Yeah, it's great, and I got to tell you, it's incredibly active. I'm paying attention to it now that you mentioned something about it. It is definitely it likes winking and blinking at you. Yes, because you've got pretty close to 100% modulation going on with that thing. Not all a problem where you've got the +2 set up is a great way to go. Nice stuff. Nice to have the two microphones. The one we're showing an ad right now at old2radio.net, and it's showing the banana style microphone with the bass. Also, I wanted to mention that if anyone is interested, I see at old2radio.com there is an operator's manual available to take a look at. So if you want to do that, you can. Thanks, Mike, for Radio 10. The Old Tube Radio Network jingle singers saying they want to go home, but they get paid to stay here until the net is over. So let's let them do a little bit of spelling.
Let's do some spelling.
OTR. 27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio. Old Tube Radio.
Doing some counting and amounting, and if you've got a radio to check in that's warming up, bring it by now, because there's not much time left. The Old Tube Radio Network.
I gotta shut the radio lounge down, but anyone that's curious about the difference between the Turner and the original banana style mic, this is the microphone right now. So don't know what it sounds like, but there it is, unamplified banana mic.
There's not a lot of difference acoustically. That's not the word I want. Frequency-wise, it's just not quite as punchy as the other one.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I wonder how much of that is just me getting tired and not being so enthusiastic about screaming into the microphone. I don't know. I think on that, I'll send it back to the Jingle Singers, although next week, boy, I can't wait. We're only a week away from the Charlton Heston and all those special effects in the movie.
Oh, that's right. Back when special effects were hard to do because you didn't have a computer. You had to actually figure out funny ways to do things. Sort of like the way you might have needed to modify your radio back in 1965 to make that D104 sound like it was going to ping like an eagle. Counting and amounting, looking for any last check-ins, and of course the Jingle Singers with their favorites in the tunes.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
The Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radio's glowing in the dark here in Central California. Looking for any last comments at oldtuberadio.net. Still a lot of people listening in. Weather report is now sprinkling in downtown Fresno, so we might be out of here just in time to get through any nasty weather. Thanks to those listening in tonight. Hello to Florida, Maryland, lots of stations from California, New York, of course. Beaconing in Iowa, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Maryland, Dallas, Georgia, Hendersonville, Tennessee, and a host of others. You may be watching the replay of the video. This is the live radio that happens every Saturday from 8 till we sign off around 10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And what was I going to mention here? Let's see. Oh, we've got to have the counting and amounting, the fanfare, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the current OTR totals.
This will be the current and final totals. Interesting. This week we did really well on SWL check-ins. A lot better than last week. We had 65, 12 on page 1, 18 on page 2, 14 on page 3, and 21 on page 4. I think the entire page 4 might have checked in tonight. And radios, we had a total of 10. made it into double digits. We had a 9-way tie going, and then we had the tiebreaker right at the end with the Browning Eagles. So the Browning Laboratories most heard radio tonight with 2. We will read down the list. Also want to say hello to Mr. Rude, now SWL 131, update your list. Longtime listener, SWL from long ago, back in town, saying, wow, I can't believe you guys are still out here. Well, we are, thanks to our tube radio operators. Many of you, you heard them tonight as they take time out of their Saturday evening activities to jump into the Radio Shack and get behind the steering wheel of the old tube radio and drive it around the block. Let us know it's still working. Really appreciate that. That's why we have been out here for 34 years, because of our great tube radio operators and shortwave listeners alike. Down the radio list we go, starting off tonight with the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. That was from SWL 25. And the next radio after that was Paul on his Utica Town and Country 2. In theory, I could say that we had a tie between the Uticas, because he started out with the Utica, the regular Town and Country, and we didn't quite check it in properly because we were having some issues hearing it. So in theory, we had 2 Utica radios tonight, and I know Paul might work on that one for us in the future. But if you're a Town and Country fan, we got the Town and Country 2 as Radio 2. Thanks, Paul, for your efforts tonight. Radio 3 was Jerry, SWL 25, on his Hallercraft CB3A little phone with the D104 microphonium. The Aircastle 2302 was from Paul for Radio 4. Radio 5, Burstein Appleby, the BA-23. So a chassis from Olson that the Burstein Appleby people put in their catalog, and before that a chassis from Fan and Courier that the Montgomery Ward's, or Spiegel people put in for their catalogs. Radio 6, the Gemtronics GTX 5000, one of the few of the 40-channel tube radios, and yes, there were some. Radio 7 was Jerry on the Sonar FS3023, sounding strong, signal and good audio there. The T-Berry Model T, the 23-channel version, which I'm not sure when you go into rarities if it's easier to find a 23-channel or a 40-channel version of the T-Berry. I'm thinking you might be easier to find the 40-channel, but we have the 23-channel from Paul for Radio 8. Radio 9, Chris on the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A, great audio with stock microphonium. And then radio number 10 on our list was the Browning Eagle R27 S23 with the Turner Plus 2 microphone. I have got one around here. I don't know where it is, but I remember when I got it, I ran it originally on my Realistic Navajo. And I was always afraid to use that pull bar, the push-to-talk pull bar, to key down to lock it, because it just seemed flimsy. So I would push the talk bar down and then lock it on for those lockdown transmissions, because on my high school budget, I didn't want to break my Turner Plus 2 microphone and have it not work. We are the Old Tube Radio Network. Archives will be up shortly at oldtuberadio.net. We'll keep the show up for a while for those who want to watch it or listen to a radio. If you're thinking about getting one, or if you got one and want to hear how it sounded with a specific microphone, you might be able to tell something from our audio. Also, thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping the Nixie tubes up and running at the digital site, and thanks to all you for tuning in and keeping us going for the last 34 years. 73, everybody, until next week at around 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, when we will try and fire up some more tube radios for your pleasure. And hopefully you do something similar wherever you might be, whether it's a vintage or an old radio night or just get on the air radio night. It's a fun thing to do. And we encourage everyone to keep the airwaves active. Probably won't have to say that in a couple of years from now when Cycle 25 starts hopping and popping, and it'll be hard to hear the radios checking in as the sun fades during the summer months. We'll see what happens. 73, everybody. We'll talk to you next time at the Old Tube Radio Network.
One more before you go.
The list is right here. Over.
Yes, SWL7 just got in through the door moments ago.
All right, well, thanks to me blathering on and the jingle singers doing their thing. I can bring up the, SWL check-in list. Go to SWL7 and make it official on the board. Over.
I thank you very much.
All right, and thank you. And that gives us, we did good on the SWL tonight at 66. Thanks.
Wow, that's a lot of numbers. I like that.
That's like almost 15 more than we had last week.
Well, I had to take people's money at poker, so there you go.
All right, it was a good night.
Yes, I took a little bit of everyone's money.
All right, well, you never know when you're going to need to buy those 7.5-volt batteries for the old Tube Radio Network.
Thank you very much. I shall be all 7 out.
Catch you all later. Good night from the old Tube Radio Network.
Good night.
Thanks, Dennis. Another great show.